So I just want to share with you guys the mouse that I use and why I think it's one of the best mice if you play without a keyboard like I do, because you probably want a mouse with a lot of extra buttons on it like this one. In full disclosure, I've only used a couple different mice. I've only used this one and the one that comes with the Venom X4, so I don't have a lot of experience, but I use this one. I like it a lot more in the Venom X4. It feels really nice. And from the research I've done online, I think this has got to be one of the best mice you can use for this, because it has a lot of buttons on it, but it's pretty much the lightest mouse you can get with this many buttons on it. The real reason that this is pretty much the best mouse you can get is it's actually called the G402 Hyperion Fury, and the reason it's called that is because it has a very special function that lets you teabag at the speed of light. So a really similar mouse to this one is the G502. Very similar, but the reviews I've read online, this one is a bit heavier and it feels a bit clunkier. I think if you're playing in FPS, the G402 should be better. This one does come wirelessly, however, the G402 does not, so that's a downside to the G402. The wireless version of this mouse weighs 114 grams, and the wireless version of the G502 is actually lighter than the wired version. The G402 weighs a little bit less at 108 grams. That's the weight without the cable. Imagine when you're lifting it up, the end of the little bit of cable that you're lifting off the table, add a tiny bit of weight. But from what I've heard online, this mouse does feel quite a bit lighter still, even though it's only, what, a 6 gram reduction in weight from the G502. It pretty much has the same amount of buttons, so really the only extra buttons that the G502 I think has are these two on top. But if you're playing an FPS game, you're probably not really going to be using those anyway, since they're going to be really awkward to reach. They're way behind the scroll wheel and you don't really need them. The G402 has plenty of buttons already, but it does have these two here you can hit up with your thumb, this one, and then these two, just like the G402. You can pretty much add way more buttons than this using the app Rewazda. You could check that out. My other video, it's like how to remap controller buttons to keyboard keys or whatever. It's in the playlist. Any of these buttons here, say like you have this button as L, you could have a long press be a different keyboard key, a double click be a third keyboard key, and then a triple click be a fourth keyboard key. So you could basically get 4 different buttons on a keyboard with each one of these buttons, pretty much an endless amount of buttons. As you can see right here, this mouse is a lot slimmer and like sleeker looking. The buttons are smaller and less bulky also. And the rest of this crap doesn't really matter. It's just, you know, I think the G502 is, you can set the DPI higher, but the G402 goes a 4000 DPI, max acceleration 16 Gs. And, you know, unless you're a fucking superhero, I don't think you're going to be doing any of that. It's basically just marketing gimmicks. Both of these mice have sensors that are way faster than you need. A human hand cannot possibly swipe through porn faster than these sensors can read. So here's a close-up look at my own mouse right here. I got it for Christmas, so I guess I've had it for about 6 months now. So I've used it every day, maybe an average of 2 hours or something like that. The only wear on it, as you can see here, the texture right here on the fire button is like kind of getting glossy there. It's not noticeable at all when I play with it, the way it feels. The texture on it feels nice. It's not like super grippy. It's just kind of a matte, like sanded down type of finish. Unfortunately, it doesn't have RGB. This pulsates right here. You can set the pulsation to go faster or slower, but that's the only color you can use. These 3 different lights signify which DPI you're using. You can have 3 different DPIs, and whichever one you set it to, the amount of lights that come on. And then I just set my choice DPI to the 3rd one just because I thought it looked better with the 3 lights on. And the sensor seems really fine. I get a lot of little dog hairs stuck in mine, and it never seems to fuck with it. Feet on the bottom, they're not really worn out at all, and I play in a really slow sensitivity and also play very aggressively. The thing that's kind of weird is, it's probably personal preference, but the cord isn't braided. It's this kind of cord, and one thing a little weird about it though is just kind of stiff. Like it just sort of sits in this position like there. As you can see, every once in a while I might get it caught like under here, whereas usually the braided cables are more flexible and they kind of bunch up more and stuff. Well, if you wanted to change the shape of it, Like say you could probably swirl it or something. You can heat it up with a hair dryer and then it'll stay pretty much any shape you want to, or you could probably heat it up with warm water. The buttons are really comfortable and easy to reach. I'm going to do a separate video on my button mapping for my mouse and my controller that I use. But like this thumb one is really comfortable here. This is how I grip it, like this. So the thumb one's always there to reach, and then you can click up. And then you kind of use the back of your thumb to click up on that one. The only one that's a little awkward to reach is this back one here. You kind of have to like claw your finger back like that, but it's not bad. It only takes a second. This one here, you just move your finger over like that. It's really comfortable. The scroll wheel feels really nice. It has like a rubbery texture. When you spin it, it like stops. It has like a nice click to it. This side is really nice here. It has these really nice grips on it, so you can squeeze it with the other side of your hand for when you're lifting it and stuff. I like how the thumb sits here with this groove. It's really comfortable when you kind of squeeze it on the side to lift up. And let me just show you the software here. It's super easy to remap the buttons. You can remap any of them to keyboard keys. This is what it looks like when you open it up. You just click on the pointer right here. I think you could even change that to a keyboard key. So it won't let you change these to keyboard keys, but if you want to, you can just use the app Rewazda like I mentioned before. But like these, you can just change it to anything you want. Here's where you set the different DPIs. I use 400 DPI. Like I said, I put this one on the third one just so the 3 lights light up. And then here's the polling rate, 125, 250, or 1000. And the DPIs move in increments of, I just fucked that way. I go as low as 240, and then it'll go to 320, 400. So they move in increments of 80. I think it goes like all the way up to 4,000 was the max. I don't know, it goes way higher than any human would want it. One thing I don't like about this is it'd be nice if you had like more than one profile, so you could set this up differently for different games, but I think you only get this one profile here to remap, because like when I play Battlefield, I have to change this button here, and that's a little annoying. But you could use Rewazda and just make separate profiles in there if you wanted to. Click on the light bulb over here at the bottom. You can change the lighting settings. Those little 3 buttons on the side there. Fusion engines, kind of gimmicky. It'll tell you inches per second, how many inches per second you can move. As you can see, the tracking is fine. It's pretty much like as fast as I can move it right there. 164 inches per second. What it goes, measures all the way up to 550 at least. So that is way faster than any human can teabag. And I don't know what this weird shit does. I think you can use like set a button to the G key, and then it'll switch around the controls for some weird hyper teabagging action. I don't know. So if you made it to the end of this video, you should probably buy this mouse right away. I'll leave a link for it in the description. I get like 2 cents or something if you buy this mouse, probably after clicking a link. It'll be for the really cheap ones for like $20 or whatever on eBay.